All right, hello and welcome. How is everyone doing on this wonderful Tuesday, April the 6th? I hope that it is finding you well. We are doing the first episode of Season 2 of SeaQuest. I'm Life with Matthew, and here with me, as always, is the wonderful John DiMarco. How you doing, John?
And thanks. Hello, everyone.
And it looks like it's fascinating. Whenever John's here, it just works. I believe everyone could hear that.
Because of
And
Darwin.
it must be because of Darwin. Darwin just fixes everything, which he certainly does tonight for his brief little CGI cameo. But we did have 47 Yorktown here first, I do believe, followed by Thomas Potts, who was saying that I have no picture again. Well, Thomas, I got that fixed. There is a picture now. I don't mean fixed. I mean, it was always there. Yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about. It was always there. And this John DiMarco person's claiming I didn't have it also. I don't know what that's about. Who can tell what these things mean? Certainly not I.
I am certainly not the best co-host. It's only because of Darwin that the audio works. Nothing to do with me.
Is that what it is? I see.
I'm sure of it.
Oh gosh, geeks enjoyed Neurotica. How you doing? Waving right back at you, my friend. Thomas Potts is saying hashtag Jaws 3, Jaws 4, Ewok movies for Matthew. I hope not. I don't think I would mind Jaws 3 and Jaws 4 too much, but the Ewok movies, that sounds rough, man.
Now you have to watch them.
And Cabin Boy 1994, I'm not familiar with that one. I'm guessing I don't want to be familiar with that one, to be quite honest, if you're suggesting it for one of our bad movie nights. And Thomas is saying, to get Matthew to do stuff, we threatened with Harry Potter. Good thing to remember. Did you threaten me with Harry Potter? I missed it. Yeah, I didn't see that chat. I'm sorry, I missed that one, Thomas. Or was that in Discord? I may have missed some chats. I'm a pretty bad chat reader.
You may have missed some chats.
I may have. I tried to make sure I didn't. Actually, you know what? Maybe if I look at this one over here. Okay, yeah, so 47 Yorktown actually started things off with a bunch of Darwin faces. And there we go. Thomas Potts is complaining about the wrench. Okay. And I'm assuming at some point in here, there is a threat about Harry Potter. Gotcha. And Professor saying that I did not have a picture. Yeah, I don't. It's so weird because I can clearly see it in the preview area, but then you come into the waiting room and it doesn't show up until I change it for the exact same picture. Like literally, I just say, here's the picture. And YouTube goes, oh, you meant use the picture. We thought you wanted this ugly blank gray thing with some dots on it. Who can figure out the mind of YouTube? Certainly not me. At least Twitch doesn't do that. Twitch just shows like a holding screen until you actually start it. So it's almost like Twitch was made for streamers and YouTube just did it as an afterthought. Surely not.
No.
Well, I am curious, how is everyone doing tonight? And I am dropping the link to come join us over in the CY2, Sci2? I think it's Sci2. There you go, the Sci2.be screening room. So the way this works is you can, hopefully you have your own copy now because Peacock TV does not include this in their service anymore. They got rid of it for, like the WWE, I think it was? Something like that? It was something unexpected.
Travesty.
And YouTube removed one of your comments in the chat? Professor Brainy Specs, what did you write? That's I mean, you're a mod, so you gotta say something really bad for YouTube to delete one of your chats. Wow. Regardless, what I was saying is that because Peacock TV removed this, either you have your own copy that you can watch along with us, or for just the duration of this stream, I will have my copy streaming on sci2.be, my screening room, which I have dropped the link to it right there in the chat. I will not, I guess I can pin that on YouTube, but unfortunately, Twitch doesn't offer that. So on YouTube, the screening room is pinned right now. Come join us if you have the ability to do so. And if you don't, I will be including some still images in this little box below us right there, if I can point the right direction, because apparently my camera is flipped again. Whatever. I don't know. Some days, I don't know what's going on with this streaming stuff. But the good news is we'll have little clips there, and then John and I will be providing live commentary, what's going on, what the people are saying, and kind of, what are our thoughts about all of it. So with that, how about we go ahead and kick this party off as we get going into Season 2, Episode 1, Daggers, Part 1. And Professor Brainy Specs is saying, let me guess it deleted that last comment too. It may have. Something about 3 white dots in a grayish rectangle with round corners inside a light grayish larger rectangle. And that you're describing my no image? Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't look like it deleted it though, Professor. So I'm going to give you a 5 count, then we're going to get this going here, guys. So if you have your own copy, try and sync up with this. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I'm hitting the play button now. And hopefully y'all can't hear anything. So we are getting 2 quick definitions. One is, it's defining what a dagger is, and the most important one is number 3 there, a genetically engineered life form manufactured in the early 21st century. See, the Dark Age of Genetics. The Dark Age of Genetics was a period dating from 2001 to 2003, when genetically engineered human-like life forms were manufactured solely for the purpose of waging war, outlawed in 2004. So even though last season took place in 2018, this episode is introducing a brand new subspecies or quasi-species of humans called the Daggers, which was basically the Numian Soons, or the Khans, Numian Khan of SeaQuest. And hold on, it's showing the entire thing there. It's not supposed to be showing the entire video. Hopefully I don't get in trouble for that. Okay, I can pause it and fix it.
Meanwhile, we've got a UAO ship approaching some kind of island security facility.
There we go. We'll get caught up. Hey, look at that. I almost got it perfectly synced up. There we go. And we see that these people have like 0 regard for these daggers. Which this is supposed to be you see on their skin, it's supposed to be like built in camouflage. They talk about this at one point. But they view the daggers as these things, these animals to let out of their cages. It's kind of surprising that you would think at some point, seeing how this takes place, or the daggers were created, what is it? 2004 to 2018, 14 years. 14 years before the events of last season. You would have thought this came up at some point.
Well, they didn't mention the daggers specifically. What they did talk about in the episode where they had that guy who made the biological weapons, about the wars that took place in the recent past.
True.
I'm guessing it's the same thing.
Let's see. And then let's see, in that episode, he also talked about, I guess that was the biologic episode, which was one of our favorite ones that we talked about 2 weeks ago.
Mhm.
But this episode has it has a slow burn, guys. Getting into it, everyone is doing Klingon calisthenics, I believe. In
I can see
varying
Worf
degrees
getting
of
into
threat.
this.
Oh, it's literally the same kind of whenever they're trying to look like Tai Chi-ish on the episode, you'd have Worf doing these exact kind of movements. But I kind of imagine this was some dance troupe that they just grabbed and said, okay, you guys are going to be the guest stars this week. Everyone just do some dancey choreography stuff. And you do a somersault right there. I mean, at least that's impressive to go from like sitting on your hands to a full-on handstand. But most of those other stuff is stuff even I could pull off, and that's not impressive. And then they get into the West Side Story part of the dance, which I thought was pretty cool. But
I'm sure that's very useful on the battlefield.
and even though they're in a prison, you can see the guards are not really doing their jobs. Like they're all armed, but at the same time they're just sitting there, not paying attention to what the prisoners are doing, really bored. I don't know if they go into it by the time the second episode, part 2, comes around. But it's interesting that they have this facility designed specifically for these genetically enhanced humans who are, only bred to wage war. And I'm assuming this is just the like American division of them, because there's only, I think they say 20 some odd people here, maybe 50. So to have an entire species, subspecies bred for war, these super soldiers, and only have like 50 of them, even though apparently they were pretty widespread, doesn't really add up. Like it seems like there should be more of these facilities around the world.
It's possible.
And they all do like this snake hissing thing at this lieutenant guy as he walks by, which I'm sure was super intimidating. So there we go. There are 50 test tubes. He said 20 years ago, 50 test tubes were poured out into a petri dish. So now we have these freaks. And we find out that they're called Gelfs. I think they could have picked a better name, something a little less sounding like something else, but Gelf is what you get. And they are genetically enhanced life forms. And this guy, the Sergeant Donato, he is just 100% against the existence of these people. But he says, even though I hate them so much, he signed up specifically because someone needs to be, keeping an eye on them, basically. And we get this really ominous statement, you better make the most of it. And the sergeant replies with, trust me, I am. And then they're all just gone, and no one cares. The sergeant's like, yeah, they move fast, whatever.
Sure, it's nothing to be worried about.
Thomas is saying, serious question, what else does it sound like? And Bradley Briggs is giving the answer. A gilf. Spend $1 on that. Yeah. Which
You know how Matthew's mind likes to reside in a gutter.
Yeah, I hear these things and like, am I the only one hearing this? maybe maybe in the innocent age of 1994, Gilf wasn't a thing that existed. And if that's the case, I miss the days of 1994. And Thomas, a GILF stands for a grandma I'd like to have intimate relations with. And here we got this guy, he's just zooming along on his motorbike, and I could actually see them doing something like, in fact, they almost did something like this, where you had a unit by the side just scan his license plate, it had a barcode on it, and it notified a call station, and the call station called you to let you know that you were clocked in coming way too fast. And as a result, he had just had $900 removed from his Social Security account. And we find out here, of course, it's Captain Bridger. You would think it was Ford or Lewis, but nope, it was Captain Bridger 100%. And we
There's something I wanted to mention here.
Yeah.
You saw a minute ago that SeaQuest was docked at some kind of pier with this upside down pyramid type shape.
Mm-hmm.
You see it more in later episodes, but that's actually the St. Petersburg Pier, which was just across the bay from where I live.
Oh, cool. But here's our famous Lewis doing so well. And greetings, Wesley Crusher. How are you doing today? Sorry you can't stay, but glad you dropped in. And we find out this girl is almost his girlfriend. But we're finding out that what's going on here is that the SeaQuest is just being finished, and they want to do kind of a parade with it. They're going up to New York, I think they were saying.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a dinner. They're showing off the new SeaQuest. The president will be there. You know, really, really important stuff. And Bridger, you may remember that in one of those interesting episodes last season, Bridger told Lewis to keep a little something in his wallet that he might need when he gets to know a woman quite well overnight. And, you know, so here he is continuing to be that really accepting cool dad type figure, saying really nice, really, really nice. And here's this girl, you know, and as soon as she finds out that Bridger's a captain, she's leaving she's leaving Lewis in the dust and trying to get a ride from Captain Bridger instead. Hey, Commodore Ty, how you doing today? But one of the things that's interesting,
yes, Thomas, it is the SeaQuest A.
That's right. So one of the interesting things I was saying with this speed trap thing, they actually did something like that with toll tags, and they would actually clock semis between bridges, and the semis would slow down at anywhere it would, you know, take their speed. But since everything was interconnected, they were able to say, hey, you know what? Even though you were at the speed limit when you went under the bridge, you were doing 90 in between the bridges. Bridges. But then they had to get rid of it along with like traffic light cams because you couldn't face your accuser because it's just a piece of technology. So they're setting up these two factions right now. You have the guy, and he is arguing that we need to be patient, whereas the girl is saying patience is a feast for fools, which I thought may have been a Shakespeare quote, but apparently it's just something they made up for this episode, from what I could tell. But the guy, I think his name might be Patrick. The guy is talking about how they see us just as weapons made for war. And we need to show them that we're not that we're more than just what they created us to be. And Matthew is apparently, the guy in the bunk, his name is Matthew, and he's on this other guy's side. He's saying, we're just supposed to be showing them a demonstration of strength. And here you are with this little gun type thing. So clearly, the Gelfs are planning on staging a revolt or some sort of demonstration tomorrow on their birthday, their 21st birthday. And these guards are just the worst. Just the absolute worst. I mean, he's literally opened up their cell. He's armed, but in no way like protecting his sidearm or anything. And earlier when the lieutenant came back, they asked him for the password, and he just, mouthed off at them, and they opened the door for him, even though he didn't give a password. Which maybe the joke is there is no password, which is just even worse. And then you got this guy coming in, and he's asking if she's been waiting for him. So apparently, even though he has an immense sense of hatred for the Gelfs, and he's saying that, she's almost a woman, but apparently he has been having encounters with this lady for quite a while. And we find out in a minute that he's married, so he is just a scumbag through and through, and a very dumb scumbag for bringing in his sidearm when he was planning on completely disrobing with this girl.
You'll find out that the lieutenant there in charge is the only one there has any idea what he's doing.
So Ford is back for season 2. And this is something I did enjoy, that they have been slowly kind of letting you know who's here and who's not for this new season. And so far we've seen Bridger, we've seen Lewis, we've seen Ford. And now we're being introduced to this young lady whose name is Henderson. And this is her first tour of duty aboard the SeaQuest. And it's interesting because, she's dressed up like one of the military people, but she is definitely not military at all. She comes up, and even though Ford just said, listen up, I'm only doing this one, she's like, well, could you tell me again anyway? And then she says, well, can you tell me where to go? And Ford's like, can you tell me where to go, sir? She's not following any sort of protocol with him. And even though clearly they should have known that you're only allowed to have one duffel bag, she has brought a second bag just for her bunny, which clearly could have been shoved inside her main duffel bag. But we find out that there's this whole pile of contraband of skateboards and stuffed animals and this is Ortiz. Is it the same actor
Yes.
who played Ortiz last season?
Yes, it's the same actor.
Okay. He just has a very different hairstyle. I think last season he had a very short haircut, more of a military haircut. And this season he's really letting his curly locks come out. And O'Neill is apparently on boat also somewhere. And Bradley's saying, I never understood speed limits. If the limit's 70, you better be going 70, or you either get a ticket or everyone else will hate you for going slow. That's actually an interesting thing, Bradley. It is as dangerous to go 20 under the speed limit as it is to go 20 over the speed limit. The dangerous part of speeding or not speeding is the fact that there's a differential in speeds instead of everyone moving at about the same pace. And so I very much agree that there needs to be a lower bound speed limit. And realistically, that lower bound needs to be pretty close, within 10 miles an hour, or else you're creating a dangerous situation. And
Captain Bridge is checking out his new bridge.
And I like the new bridge.
Sorry.
And I like the new uniforms too.
Very nice.
All they really did was add like a couple little shoulder strappy type things and maybe a slight adjustment somewhere else. But I do think it changes it more from being a traditional Navy jumpsuit into something more, what's the word? Artistic, something more sci-fi military and less strict military.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a box left for Bridger on the bridge, and when he puts it in, it's the keys to the ship. And I do like the idea that a military sub needs a key to run. And I just got an update for anyone watching on SciTube. It's saying it's being restarted for software updates. So if we lose it on CYTube, I will try to get us back there as quickly as possible. Which is interesting. They're doing it right now. You'd think they do it more like at 3 a.m.
That would make more sense.
Yeah. Like even if they're West Coast or East Coast, that'd be 11 or 8, almost 8 right now. So I mean, it's pretty busy time no matter what part of America you're in. And here's Darwin.
Oh, look, it's Darwin.
The CGI dolphin. Which, hey, 1994 TV show level CGI, not bad at all. And a lot like Riker, I think
there's still people who don't.
Go on.
They're saying there's still a lot of people who don't realize that he was an animatronic and not a real dolphin.
Oh, if y'all hadn't told me, I'd never know. I thought he was just a trained dolphin for sure. But I was going to say, like Riker, I think Bridger is really rocking the beard. It makes him look a lot more, I don't know, dignified. If I stroke the beard thusly.
Why not appear more intellectual?
Yes. And apparently CYTube just rebooted, perhaps? It's still going for me. I hope it's still going for everyone else.
It just jumped backwards. It's for me.
Okay. Hopefully it jumps you forward again. So anyway, we're finding out that this Gelf is the prototype. He was the first Gelf, I think it is. And he goes by the name of Dagwood the Dagger. And it's interesting because Bridger says, well, that's an offensive word, dagger. But Dagwood is just like, hey, that's who I am. Like, I don't think it's offensive to be me. But he clearly has some mental processing issues. He's very dim-witted. Dagwood the dim-witted dagger, unfortunately. And Professor Saw was saying it jump back a bit. Okay.
Is it still in the right place for you, Matthew?
It is. And is it not catching up for everyone else?
Oh, it's still going like a few minutes back.
Okay, let me try and force this forward for a second here. Let me pause the play-in. Okay, y'all let me know if it starts jumping around for you. So we all should be at about 2150 right now. Is that where you're at?
We're still at about 17 minutes.
17 minutes. Wow. Okay, I just gave myself leader again. Hopefully this resets it for everyone. We should be up to 2210.
Yeah, it's caught up now.
Okay. Sorry about that. And more of just the most incompetent guards ever. They are playing Rock'em Sock'em hologram robots. And the lieutenant's, he's giving them a reprimand, which is exactly what they should be getting, but they just do not care at all. Sergeant Genato's missing. The lieutenant's trying to figure out why he's not there. The Gelfs are supposed to be out exercising, but they're nowhere to be found, and the guards don't care. They're like, it's their birthday. It doesn't matter. I mean, this is almost it's almost like a punishment assignment is how the guards are acting. They just want to get off this assignment. Now, earlier we found out that the Gelfs were considered not to be human specifically because they couldn't reproduce. And yet here we have two of the Gelfs who, clearly were able to reproduce.
It's supposed to be the first time that's ever happened.
What, two Gelfs reproducing?
Yes, it's supposed to be a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an extremely, extremely big deal. But, I don't see how they could have missed this. One of them being pregnant seems like something that would have very much been noticeable.
We saw how much those guards were paying attention earlier.
True that. True that. And it's O'Neill and Ortiz back at it again. O'Neill is trying to fix this device that's supposed to be giving them access to the UEO channels, but instead it's like showing them terrestrial broadcasts. And it's something to do with the turbine creating interference. Thomas, how old am I? Old enough. Old enough and young enough. And Ford, for his summer vacation, took a practical course on cold fusion, because that is just page turner stuff. And Bridger is just like John DiMarco. As soon as he came aboard, things just started working with no issue. Unfortunately,
I appreciate that.
Unfortunately, that's less than true, because Ford's warning him not to flush the toilet. Last time they did that, it flooded the galley. There's some kinks to work out still.
Remember that thing O'Neill and Ortiz was working on collapsed on top of them.
And I'm thinking it got O'Neill worse, because he's screaming that he can't breathe. But, anyone who's screaming that they can't breathe over and over again clearly can breathe, because they're continually screaming.
True. Thankfully, the Dagwood's there to the rescue.
Yeah, so we see that Dagwood, while being dim, is also very, very strong. And O'Neill was being crushed. He was in a not good situation. And they really want to make a dagger like the N-word or something. But it's just not, it's not working. Because Ortiz is like, oh, he's a dagger, and O'Neill is like, hey, don't say that. He saved my life. But again, Dagwood is just accepting of who he is. He says, but I am a dagger. A dagger is what I am. I was the prototype. And like I said, things work out for good. I kind of get a feeling at moments like these that this could have been a single part episode. Like they definitely have some slow pacing in the episode, kind of ballooning things out. I got the feeling.
Watch out for that electric fence.
And the Gelfs they're just completely taking over. Fortunately, the lieutenant is the one person who was following any semblance of protocol, and he had the control tower locked down. He immediately calls out a code red, but I don't know. I think there was an accident in that last shot. You could see the two Rock'em Sock'em Robot guys sitting there ignoring him. And we had already seen that they had been taken out. So I don't think they were supposed to be there in that shot. But the lieutenant, he gets into an escape pod, and you can see how strong the Gelfs are as they just pull open this thing. And off he goes shooting in his escape pod into the ocean, which it doesn't seem like it goes too far. It seems like he's just a very short distance away from the island. Hey, Daniel's Hot Topic. Doing pretty good tonight. What sort of great news happened today? But now the Gelfs have freedom.
And a baby.
And a baby. The lieutenant's trying to send out an SOS, but no one's picking it up. He's letting them know the Gelf colony is in revolt. He's giving his call sign, but no one's picking up. Which made sense at the base. The first thing they did was disconnect the radar communication looking dish, the satellite dish. I think this is the general is showing there, Gideon Thomas. He was the one Bridger encountered early on in season 1, who was kind of underhanded, I believe.
Yes, as the one that sent him after the people that were attacking the whalers.
Yeah. And this is another new character for season 2 here. He's a motor mouth.
Yeah. Hello.
But I mean, they're just doing this witty banter, and I can't even begin to give it justice as he's just rapid fire with everything. He's talking about how his dad ran off with his aunt. They celebrated Christmas by putting up his arrest warrants on the Christmas tree. So the pacifist guy he's insisting that it's time to find a peaceful path, that the UEO will listen to their demands. They have hostages. There's no need to be a military organization. That's just falling into what they created them to be, or what they're expecting them to be. But no one's listening to him. They're convinced that the UEO will never listen to them, and that there's only one way to get freedom, and that's to fight for it. The only leverage they have is a leverage they can get at the end of a gun. Daniel's Hot Topic is saying, first of all, how much do I want to bet that Picard Season 2 will be about time travel with all the talk of time in the trailer and Q? Yeah, Daniel, that is exactly what we were speculating last night on the pub. I personally am suspecting that time travel will be a focus, and the reason it would be a focus is so that they can have a different actor than Patrick Stewart. Like, I don't think so old. he's so old. They need someone younger, and they already missed their chance to do it by regenerating him into the android body. Oh, this lady.
Nobody liked this character.
Okay, so the instant she showed up, I was excessively unimpressed with her. Like, this whole interaction she has, she's talking about how, she's psychic, and she can bend stuff with her mind. And she comes in and she's like, sorry for bursting in, but basically my whole life I always end up in the wrong place, but it always turns out to be the place where I'm supposed to be anyway. And so immediately, of course, it turns out that she was looking for Bridger, and even though she went into the wrong room, here was Bridger, so it was where she was supposed to be. And her mother was Admiral Lexington something Smith. And Bridger's like, what, sexy Lexi? I'm like, even if that is the same person, I don't think her daughter would appreciate you talking about her mom, who is an admiral and very clearly outranks you, as sexy. Like, that's just a little weird.
A little nitpick. She tries to correct Bridger about whether a submarine's called a ship or a boat. I'm sure Darren could explain this better than me, but submarines are always referred to as boats, no matter how big they are. So she's already wrong there.
And she was really pretentious about it too.
Yeah.
Like, she comes off as like a Burnham type character.
A little bit, yeah.
See, Daniel's Hot Topic was saying, wow, I was never a motor mouth. I was always pretty quiet. That's why I could never get a girlfriend. Way too quiet. It's true, Daniel. You have so many great things to say. I would definitely love it if, when you're up on the pub, if you can just elbow through the people like me who never shut up. Because I would definitely love to hear more of what you have to say. And of course, she bends a spoon. She leaves a bent spoon behind on the table, just to prove that she can, in fact, bend spoons. And Thomas is saying that time travel and Picard must mean Doctor Strange, but Professor is correcting him that it means the Doctor, which I would definitely find interesting for either one of those things to happen in Picard Season 2.
You are not often wrong, Thomas, by the way.
I think Thomas is often wrong the same way as Soon was often wrong. Oh, what was his name? Piccolo?
Yeah, Piccolo.
So he was in jail, and as part of being released, he was assigned to SeaQuest because the UEO wants to assign low risk prisoners to the places where they'd be the most effective. And Bridger wants to know why he was in prison. And he says he tried to rob a bank with a slice of pizza. So Bridger tells him to stow the attitude, and he says, no, can't do it. It's part of who I am. And he tries to escape out of the closing airlock and then just goes for a run. And this is definitely one of those bloat areas. They wanted to showcase this guy's abilities in just a second here. And they decided the best way to do it is to have him try to escape the SeaQuest.
He also gave Darwin another chance to do something awesome, too.
It's true. Darwin saves the day, as usual. The people can't corner him, but the guy flips out when he sees a dolphin, wondering, what is this strange creature I am beholding?
Like, get this guy out of my tubes.
Thomas saying, I don't know if he insulted or complimented you. I complimented you, Thomas. And Bridger's giving him appropriate dressing down. He's like, what are you trying to do? Kill yourself? He said, no, I was trying to get out. He's like, what? Into the ocean with no oxygen? And he explains that he was an experimental. And he has gills. Just kind of like we saw last season. So apparently, they are definitely establishing in this first episode that SeaQuest is going to be a little different this season, I do believe.
Mm-hmm.
See, Daniel is saying Jim Carrey will be MODOK in the MCU. I'm not pronouncing his name right. But he's disappointed. He wanted Jim Carrey to be in a live-action role in the MCU, not a voice actor for a CGI character. Is that confirmed, Daniel? Like, I haven't any. Which movie is MODOK going to be in? And poor Lewis. Lewis has been assigned this guy as a roommate. And Daniel wants to know, why can't we have any hot girls who like the same things we like? Women don't seem to care about Marshall. Oh, you mean like in real life? Okay, I was thinking you were talking about like in movies. I was going to say that I have it on good authority that Alexander thinks that Aunt May is extremely attractive. So, at least by Alex's definition, there would be attractive women in the MCU.
Yeah, but he's crazy.
And in all honesty, some of the craziest girls I've ever encountered have been the ones that like the exact same things I liked. And finding a girl who has some commonality with you, but at the same time has lots of different things, lots of things that you don't have in common, has been a far more fascinating relationship than anyone else I've ever met. Like my wife, we have some points of commonality and then so much different, and it's made for a much, much better relationship than someone who liked exactly all the things I liked.
And Thomas is saying he's not going to watch it, whatever Jim Carrey is going to be in.
You know, Jim Carrey, like in real life, I do my best not to know anything about the actors because they're all jerks. But did you watch the newest Sonic movie? The live action one? Jim Carrey was a pretty good Dr. Robotnik.
Never saw that one.
Yeah, it's a good one. Oh, and this lady, I think her name was Harrison. Henderson. She got her bunny out of the contraband when no one was looking. But it's a good luck bunny, so he's allowed to stay. So even though the paint is still drying on SeaQuest, they're able to get things worked out. And O'Neill looks back and she gives him a little friendly, "How you doing?" wave.
I finally figured out where the escape pod was and gone to rescue Lieutenant Brody.
It must have gone a lot further than I thought, because if it was just off the coast, which is, there's only so much you can do with shooting these things. But if it was just off the coast of that little prison encampment, they had 4 or 5 boats sitting there that they easily could have gotten him back with. So this must have really gone a far way underwater and then popped up several miles offshore. But the UAO, they finally did pick up his message, and they sent the SeaQuest to retrieve him. And Daniels is saying that it was Dins of Nerd who said that Jim Carrey would be MODOK. But they did not say what movie he would be in. So here we find out this Brody was the individual who led a stealth invasion during the North Korean crisis, which, amazingly, SeaQuest again predicting future issues. I would not at all be surprised to see a North Korean crisis at some point soon. And Lieutenant Brody apparently thought something inappropriate, and I think Picard said it best. A man cannot be held accountable for what he dreams or what he thinks. But I think that's going to be her shtick, that someone will think something inappropriate and she will be pseudo-offended by it.
And yes, Professor, I see that Matthew's been ignoring you again.
Moi?
Uh-huh.
Well, good news, bad news. The SeaQuest, which is having technical difficulties, will not be going to the dinner parade. But bad news, they're having to go to the Gelf colony to deal with them. And he's being instructed to blow it up, that there's not going to be reconciliation against something that came out of a test tube. Deal with it. And that's it. That is part 1 of this episode. Hopefully next week we will be able to continue with part 2 of SeaQuest. I'm not intentionally ignoring you if that makes you feel better, Professor Bernie Specs.
Just accidentally ignoring him.
Yeah, exactly. Accidentally ignoring. Let's see if I got this right. Boop. Okay, so what did you think of this episode?
I thought it was an interesting way to start the season. They got some new wrinkles in this future, now recent past period that you're dealing with.
Yeah, and I thought it was, like I said earlier, it's a neat way to introduce who is here and who isn't here. Sad that we're not going to see Dr. Westphalen. I mean, maybe she'll make some guest appearances later on, but sad that she's not here at the beginning, that we have this new, very pretentious woman, the telepath of the season. Henderson seems like an interesting character. The Motormouth guy seems like a less interesting character. The Gelf guy, Dagwood, he seems interesting.
Yeah, I like him.
I kind of suspect that Dagwood and the Motormouth guy are somehow going to form some relationship. because it's almost like a Lewis and Krieg relationship, and that you have someone who's very worldly, very quick-witted, and then someone who's more innocent, which is what Lewis was. And I guess for that record, we are missing Hitchcock, Krieg, and Crocker, along with Dr. Westphalen.
Yes. And behind the scenes, they moved production from California to Florida for this season, and some of the actors decided they didn't want to make the move. Also, some
that's
of the
bad.
actors were let go because the network wanted a younger cast.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess now that you say that, there's definitely a younger cast here. Henderson, Motormouth, even Dagwood. He's a big guy, but he does kind of look to be younger, or at least emotionally younger. Nixon, Lucas, and the doctor replacement. She's not young, like she's still old enough to be someone who could potentially be a romantic interest for Bridger without being ooh factor. Like if Bridger and Henderson became an item, that'd be kind of ooh. Someone who could easily be his daughter or granddaughter. But she's definitely not Dr. Westphalen's age.
So
And
the
hey,
actors.
hey Sonder, how you doing tonight?
I was thinking the actors who played Dagwood and Piccolo are actually brothers in real life.
Ah, wow. I did not see that coming. I did notice, YouTube lets you put in like keywords so that if someone's searching for something, they can find your video. And I typically put in the guest stars' names. And I did notice that two of the actors had the same last name. I was wondering who those two characters were, and now I know it's the Dagwood brothers.
That's Peter and Michael DeLuise.
Yes, that's who it was. Professor Bernie.
Peter.
Oh, go ahead.
And Peter DeLuise was involved with SG-1 later on. He's one of the producers.
Is Peter the older, or is Peter Dagwood, or was Peter Piccolo?
Peter was Dagwood.
Oh. I knew the last name DeLuise was familiar, but I could not place it. And so Thomas is saying that the doctor replacement is the worst. She came off that way. Like, as soon as she was introduced, I sat there and like, okay, am I being biased against her because she's not Dr. Westphalen? Or is she really this insufferable? And I'm glad to see that she's insufferable.
Yeah, she's insufferable. I couldn't stand her.
And Professor Bernie Specs wants to know, when does the age difference become too great? I think I've heard the number is you cut your age in half and then add 7. I think it was. Anything younger than that is pretty ooh factor. And that's you got to do some carefulness with that, because there's some ages where even that's not a good number. Like if you're 18 and half would be 9 and 7 more would be 16, and that's still kind of ooh. Like once you hit 18, it really needs to be another adult at that point. So I think that only becomes a workable math formula at age like 22. Because then half would be 11 and 7 would be 18. So yeah, 22 and up, half and add 7. That's the formula. Thomas is saying that Dom is a guest star in an episode. Dom who?
Dom DeLuise, dad.
Oh, okay. And Daniel's talking about was it Guardians of the Galaxy right now, I do believe. Let's see. I think it's back up to something about the Eternals and the Celestials, that they seed planets with seeds that give birth to other Celestials, and this is a process that takes millennia. There's a Celestial seed on Earth, and when it grows, the Earth will explode, and the Celestial will be born but kiss the Earth goodbye. That could make for an interesting first movie for the Celestials. And Bradley's saying that if you're older than them by so much, you could be their parent. That's when it becomes a bit weird. Yes, that is definitely a true formula as well. A 44-year-old dating an 18-year-old would definitely be very ew.
And can the Earth explode in 5 minutes? I don't know.
I mean, anything's possible. In fact, if you like the Discworld novels, you might know that technically the entire universe explodes every single moment and then is simply re-put together. And it is our consciousness moving from moment to moment that gives the illusion of time, and not that time actually exists. It's just each moment you are made aware of everything that came in all the other moments before, right before that moment explodes into million pieces and then is rebuilt by time. But hey, Discworlds they get interesting. Thomas is saying, but Anti-Trekker is like 990,009 years older than Mrs. Anti-Trekker. Well, Anti-Trekker, he's an interesting person.
And now you sound like the regulator.
No, that's just what was written in Discworld. You've got to read them. It's actually a really interesting book. It was one of the ones about Susan Death. Susan Death was the granddaughter of the anthropomorphic representation of death. So you had the Grim Reaper, who, skull, Psy guy, and he adopted a human daughter, and the human daughter, as long as she lives in Death's world, never ages. But eventually Death took on an apprentice, and the two of them fell in love, the apprentice and the daughter. So they went to the real world, but like a little bit of that essence of death lingered in them, and it was inherited by their granddaughter Susan. And so there's all sorts of interesting things about it. You had a Christmas book about it. You had this time book about it, and fascinating reads. Like all the Discworld novels are just the best reads, except the Tiffany Arking ones, which were the young adult ones about witches. Those just got dumb. Professor Brainy Specs want to know, what about the joined species like the Trill? What with the explosions? It could still work. Oh, are you talking about the age difference? I guess you have to go by your host's age then. And Thomas is saying choo choo. What is that? The derailment train? Probably. Daniel is saying, I remember when Anti-Trekker was on YouTube. Those were the days. And he said that on a church stream, when Christ died on the cross, he went back in time and became God. I've heard him say that theory before. I don't think it's scripturally supported, especially if you go to passages like John 1:1, when it talks about how from the very beginning, Christ was with God and Christ was also fully God. And of course, also you see in Ephesians 1, talking about the roles of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and that each one of them existed in time eternal. I think that if you return to such passages, it very quickly undermines that idea. It's certainly an interesting idea. It's just one that I don't believe is scripturally supported. And the reason I would say that... sorry, go on, John.
I was just saying, I thought it was a weird idea as well. That's all.
One of the strongest reasons I would say that also is in the John 1:1 account, or John chapter 1, excuse me, not John 1 1. John chapter 1 account, it talks about how everything that came into existence was made by the Son, talking about Jesus. And nothing that was created was done apart from Jesus. So if Jesus was a created being, created by God, then that would be contradicting the statement that nothing was created apart from Jesus. And you might say, well, it's kind of the Obi-Wan Kenobi stance. Well, from a certain point of view, I didn't lie. Since Jesus became God, he still created everything. Well, the God doesn't play word games like that. Nowhere else in the Bible would you ever see something like that. So if Jesus was created, then John chapter 1 is full of lies. And I simply don't believe that God deceives people. I don't believe that God lies to people, that God tells people the truth. He might do it in figurative languages at times, such as through Proverbs and through Revelation. We kind of get this figurative language about, a face that shone like bronze. Well, does that mean he has a bronze face? No. It just means his face was shining. And the best example that John could come up with was bronze. Anyway, continuing along with the derailment train. So with this episode, it was good. I do feel like they really pulled out some scenes, like the Tai Chi at the beginning. But at the same time, I get it. With season 2, it's almost like an entirely brand new show, is how I'm feeling. We have had half the cast be replaced. It seems like they're going for a much different tone than season 1. And so you kind of need to have an episode like this that really rebooted the franchise. Would you say that's kind of a fair assessment?
Yes, I think so. I was thinking before that the first season felt very much like TNG.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the plots and things that happen in this season will almost give you more of a TOS feel. You even see that here, where they're basically doing their version of the eugenics wars in Khan. They do,
Yes.
and they have more of those kind of out there sci-fi plots going on this season.
Yeah, and I only watched the first episode, but I did get the feeling that they are using the daggers to be a stand-in for race relations, and especially with things like, hey, that word's offensive, with the daggers word, and also the argument that the daggers themselves were having with, we need to be more than what they paint us to be, versus, well, they paint us to be this, and this is all that we can be now, which I think is a fascinating thing to look at. I love it whenever shows tackle complex concepts like that. But as they're talking about that, I definitely saw, hey, this is kind of a race relations allegory. Are we simply what people paint us as, or can we be more than what people paint us as? I don't know if that's where they go with this, but in the first episode, it seemed like they're kind of laying that groundwork.
So they're going to be examining that kind of thing a lot.
See, Bradley's saying that he wants to see Anti-Trekker watch and review the later seasons of Stargate SG-1 so badly. What are my thoughts on the Ancients and the Ori? The Ori, I do believe, were the Pa Wraith of SG-1. And my thoughts on them was Stargate SG-1 should have ended before the Ori came onto the scene. The episodes got better after that first season that introduced the Ori. But that first season, when they were setting things up, it's so hard to get past that season. And I really do wish that they just ended it on a high. Of course, then we would have missed out on a lot of great Claudia Black moments, a lot of great Ben Browder moments, who was the O'Neill replacement. there's good episodes in there, but I personally would have preferred them to end sooner. And Daniels is saying it could have been a predisposition paradox where Jesus died and went back in time and he created himself in the beginning. But then he still would have been created. And that's incompatible with what we know about Scripture. And it would also be a wordplay thing. Like, if that's what happened, I think God would have just told us. I think, especially in the John 1 account, when it talked about how in the beginning was the Word, Jesus, and that he was with God and that he was God. I think that account setting up this is how everything has been and how the world came into being in just a few short verses would have said how the Word came into the world to become God. Or I think that after when it talked about Jesus ascending, it would have talked about him going back to become God, but it doesn't. What it says is that he ascended and sat at the right hand of God, that he moves in a linear fashion. Even though God is not constrained by time, the Bible depicts God as someone who moves linearly with us, that he's fully aware of everything that will ever happen, but he still operates on a day-by-day basis with us, is how the Bible depicts everything. Thomas wants to know, what is Stargate SG-1? I know the movie, but what's that? Oh, Thomas, you goober. Well, John, final thoughts for this episode.
Well, they set up a lot of exciting things they're going to have to pay off in part 2 of this episode. So hopefully we don't have to wait multiple weeks to see the conclusion.
True. Hopefully we will be back here next week. Now, next week is the monthly Bible study for the ladies at my church. However, the most it usually does is I might have to start this 10, maybe 15 minutes later than usual, but we should still be able to do it regardless. So with that, guys, thank you so much for joining John and I as we review the Season 2, Episode 1 of SeaQuest, and we hope to see you all next week.
Right.
Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to hit that like button and share it with your friends. If you haven't subscribed yet, I hope you will, and be sure to hit that bell icon to be notified of all the updates I do on this channel. If you want to support the work I'm doing here, then I hope you'll consider becoming one of my Patreons, where you'll get early access to all kinds of videos. And until the next time, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May he cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen.